My name is Jessica Britton, and I serve as Director of District Partnerships for Ramsey Education. I spent 14 years in the classroom before joining this team, and many of those years were spent serving on adoption committees. I know firsthand how much thoughtful attention this process requires, especially when you already have so much on your plate. So I truly appreciate your time today. In this video, I want to focus on classroom flow, what teachers and students will actually experience in the curriculum, and how you can navigate the materials as you review them. My goal is to make this process as clear and straightforward as possible. We'll look at how to access content, explore the structure of the course, and locate the supporting materials available for both teachers and students. I'll also show you how to use the Tennessee Correlations document to find where each state standard is taught and where students are assessed within the curriculum. By the end of this overview, you should have a clear picture of how everything is organized and exactly where to find each component as you move through your review. Let's start by taking a look at Ramsey Classroom, our digital platform. To access Ramsey Classroom, reviewers can use the login credentials provided. Simply navigate to ramseyclassroom.com and enter the username and password we included for your review. After logging in, you'll arrive at the dashboard. We designed this dashboard to be simple and intuitive for both teachers and students. On this screen, students and teachers will see a series of class cards, which represent the different classes they are enrolled in or teaching. For the purpose of this review, we've created a sample class titled Foundations in Personal Finance, Tennessee. Because we're currently in Teacher View, the card includes access to the class gradebook, class roster, teacher resources, settings, and the main class content. The student view of this dashboard is very similar, with their class cards listed here as well, but without the class roster or teacher resources, of course. Let's dive into the class content. Once you click the Content button, you'll see the main navigation for the course, chapters 1 through 13 listed here. This is the same view students have when they click on Content as well. In Ramsey Classroom, we refer to these chapter sections as modules, but they correspond directly to the chapters in the print textbook. On the left-hand side of your screen, you'll also see the navigation pane. These options allow teachers to switch between class content, the gradebook, class roster, resources, and settings without returning to the dashboard. Students will also have access to the gradebook in this navigation pane, but they will not see links for the roster, teacher resources, or settings. Let's take a look at Chapter 1 so I can show you how this content is organized and how you can access everything in Ramsey Classroom. To enter a chapter module, simply click the chapter title. Once inside the chapter, the navigation pane now lists all of the content components for that chapter. Foundations in Personal Finance includes 13 chapters and 72 lessons. These lessons include instructional videos, textbook reading content, student activities, extended learning opportunities, and case studies. We've taken a comprehensive approach with these chapters and lessons, covering topics such as budgeting, saving, banking, insurance, and investing. Each chapter begins with a short introduction page to give students an overview of what they will be learning. We also include both a pre-test and a post-test for each chapter. Teachers can use these assessments to measure student growth across the chapter. Students then move through the lessons, and you'll notice that each lesson is organized in the same way. We love how consistent this structure is because it makes the curriculum easy for both teachers and students to navigate. Each lesson begins with an engaging teaching video. One important thing to keep in mind is that these videos are not designed to replace the textbook lesson. Instead, the video and the text work together to teach the content of the lesson. As students watch the video, they complete guided notes, which appear directly within the video content. This helps students stay engaged and capture the key concepts as they're being taught. These responses are automatically graded, but teachers can always review the answers and adjust student grades if needed. Each video also concludes with 1 or 2 analyze and reflect short response questions that help students move beyond simple understanding and begin analyzing what they've learned. Teachers can choose to show the video during class or take a flipped classroom approach and assign it as homework. Students can access videos from anywhere they log in to Ramsey Classroom. After engaging with the video, students continue learning with the textbook content. Sometimes this textbook lesson takes the video concepts deeper. Other times it introduces complementary ideas. Either way, the video and the textbook lessons always work together to give students a complete learning experience and ensure the standards are met. At the beginning of each lesson, you'll see the learning objectives, the main idea, and the key terms students will encounter. If we scroll to the end of the lesson, you'll see that students have a journal question to answer. As you review the correlation document, you'll occasionally see references to journal questions. This is where those appear. Journal questions always conclude each textbook lesson. After reading through the textbook lesson, students will complete one or more activities to apply their learning. In Ramsey Classroom, activities always default to Teacher View, which you can see indicated by the blue banner at the top. As you scroll down, you'll first see a procedure page that shows the teacher exactly how to implement the activity. As you continue scrolling, you'll see suggested responses for the teacher. If you'd like to review the student version, you can click Switch View, which will display the student-facing version where students type directly into the activity and submit their work through Ramsey Classroom. Teachers can also print this version if they prefer students to complete the activity on paper. So just to recap, each lesson follows the same structure. Students begin with a teaching video, continue with the textbook lesson, and then complete one or more activities. You'll see this same flow throughout all 13 chapters and 72 lessons, making the course consistent and easy to navigate. If we click on Teacher Resources, you'll see that teachers have access to a wide range of additional materials designed to support instruction. Under Planning Your Instruction, teachers can find pacing guides, a list of activities listed by type and student organization, and learning objectives. Then, if we go back to Teacher Resources and look at Chapter 1, you'll notice that each chapter has additional resources, including teacher guides, PowerPoints, tiered learning assessments, and parent resources. Let's pause for a minute and look at the Chapter 1 PowerPoint. We provide editable PowerPoint presentations for each chapter, broken down by lesson. Teachers can customize these presentations to fit the needs of their classroom. Each presentation begins with an essential question for the chapter, along with suggested ways teachers can introduce that question. The rest of the PowerPoint is broken down by lesson, giving teachers tools such as warm-up questions, learning objectives, key terms, and graphic organizers. Teachers can also find pre- and post-assessment ideas, strategies to support English language learners, and differentiated instruction ideas in the PowerPoint notes. So while the student-facing side of the curriculum may look like a simple video, textbook, and activity structure, the teacher-facing side includes many additional resources that help teachers tailor instruction to their students. Again, these PowerPoint presentations are available and editable under the Teacher Resources tab. You won't see PowerPoints referenced in the correlations document because we only correlate to the places in the curriculum where content is explicitly taught and assessed to meet the expectations of each standard. Now let's take a look at where you can find the Tennessee correlation document inside Ramsey Classroom. We've provided you with a copy for your review, but teachers and districts can also access it directly in the platform. If we return to Teacher Resources and click Planning Your Instruction, you'll see the option labeled Tennessee Standards Correlation. When you open that document, you'll see the Tennessee State Standards listed on the left side and places in the curriculum where each standard is taught and assessed listed on the right. I want to take a minute here to explain how we approached the correlations. First, we carefully deconstructed each standard and paid close attention to every verb. Then we made sure we were correlating not only to where the content is being taught, but also to where students are being assessed at that same verb level. Because of that, you're often going to see several references listed for a single standard. That's especially true for a standard like this first one, Standard 1.1, because it includes multiple verbs like define, consider, and explain. It also includes several types of information sources students must research. So that's why we've correlated to so many different components listed on the right. I want to make sure you know exactly how to access each type of correlation so that as you review, you can find things quickly without having to search for them. So let's use Standard 1.1 as an example and walk through where to find these correlations. The first teaching component students will encounter for each lesson is the lesson video, and we often correlate with that teaching. For this standard, you'll notice that we correlated with the video for Chapter 1, Lesson 5, and also for 2 videos in Chapter 7, the Lesson 4 video and the Lesson 6 video. Reviewers can easily access these videos in Ramsey Classroom. Just go back to class content, then click on the chapter and lesson. You'll see videos are always the first item listed under each lesson. Next, if we come back to the correlation guide, we see Standard 1.1 also has a few correlations listed for Chapter 1, Lesson 1. We start with the guiding notes and analyze and reflect questions, which can be found in the student textbook on page 3. If you prefer to review those guided notes and analyze and reflect questions in print, you can use the student text or the teacher guide. If you'd rather review them digitally, you can go to the specific chapter and lesson in Ramsey Classroom. Click on the video and you'll see those assessment questions directly below it. One thing to keep in mind is that when we correlate to guided notes, that typically reflects a lower level of thinking. For example, if a standard asks students to define a concept, that type of verb is often assessed through guided notes. If we come back to our correlation guide, you'll see that another place we correlate to quite often are the extended learning prompts. For example, we had Standard 1.1 correlating to an extended learning prompt in Chapter 1, Lesson 1, and you can find that prompt in the teacher guide on page 3, titled Differentiated Instruction. You can review that prompt in your physical teacher guide by turning to page 3 and looking at the bottom of the page. If you prefer to review it digitally, you can open the digital teacher guide in Ramsey Classroom by going to Teacher Resources, selecting Chapter 1, and opening the Chapter 1 guide there. Once you open it, you'll find that same extended learning prompt in the wrap at the bottom of page 3. This is another place where teachers can assess students on the standard. You'll also see that we correlate to the student textbook readings. When the correlation guide lists student text, that points you to the reading for that lesson. In this example, under Chapter 1, Lesson 1, you can view the Personal Finance in You reading on pages 4 to 6 in the student text or the teacher guide, since those page numbers align. You can also review it digitally in Ramsey Classroom by going back into the class content, opening Chapter 1, and clicking on Textbook. You'll also notice that we correlate to activities throughout the course. To access those activities, you'll have to be in Ramsey Classroom, and we've labeled that clearly for you in the correlation guide. For this example, we'll go to Chapter 1, Lesson 6, and look for the parent interview activity in our navigation pane. Once you click on that activity, you'll first see the teacher procedure page because the platform defaults to teacher view. As you scroll down, you'll see the student version along with suggested answers. If you want to see only the student-facing version, you can switch the view to student view. Sometimes the correlation document will also reference discussion questions. We can see an example of this for Standard 1.1 for Chapter 2, Lesson 2. Discussion questions can only be found in the teacher guide, and in this case, it directs us to page 37. You can look those up in either the physical teacher guide or the digital teacher guide I showed you earlier. The discussion questions are always located on the left side of the teacher wrap. Another assessment we correlated to in Chapter 2, Lesson 2 is the journal question. Your reviewers can find journal questions in both the physical student textbook and the digital student textbook. We provide the page number in the correlation document to make them easy to locate. As you continue reviewing the materials, you'll be able to move easily between the print resources, Ramsey Classroom, and the Tennessee Correlations document to see exactly where each standard is taught and assessed within the course. I hope this overview has been a helpful introduction to our curriculum and digital platform so your review can be as clear and straightforward as possible. Thank you again for the time and care you're putting into this process. We're so grateful for the opportunity to support Tennessee students as they develop the financial skills they'll use throughout their lives.